Green is,
So green is on.
Okay.
testing. You can hear me? Yes? No? I have to put it. Good evening, everyone. That's better? Okay. Welcome to our board meeting for February 22nd, 2024. We're going to do a little roll call and make sure everyone's here. Jill Dominguez, I'm the chair here. Mark Horowitz,
Here.
Sergio Martinez,
Here.
Morad,
Here.
Cesar.
Here.
Zoraima is not here yet. Hopefully she'll be arriving soon. And Tracy.
Here.
Did we do good on our roll call? Okay. We've got quorum, so we're going to begin our meeting. First on the agenda is our public comment. Is there anyone signed up for public comment tonight? Okay, well then we'll move on to our consent agenda items, which is item number 3. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion if requested by a board member. Any item may be taken off the consent agenda by the chair for individual consideration. We have 3.1, the approval of the January 25th, 2024 meeting minutes. 3.2, the approval of accounts payable reports from January 1st to January 31st, 2024. And 3.3, to approve the following individuals to incur travel expenses for the following. Nelson Amaro is going to 2024 winter BEDC, and Sergio Martinez is going to the ED sales tax workshop.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Awesome. We've got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions about consent agenda items? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We're going to move on to number 4, which is the President CEO report by Corey Pena. Corey, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to give you an update for our, we had our consultants here last week. So they were here the whole entire week. And so we performed in-person, one-on-one interviews, focus groups, our public engagement meetings, and we interviewed our leadership as well as the city's leadership, our economic development partners, policymakers, K through 12 students. So we did the consultants did a lot of work last week. So it was great. It was a full day, Monday through Friday for them. So what was great also about it is we also hosted 4 public town talks. We had one at the main library, Southmost Library, and 2 at eBridge. And from that, the consultants asked questions to the community about what was special about Brownsville. And their reply, and this was what was more common answers, was bicultural, binational, family traditions, our parks and our trails, the zoo, the weather. They all said great education, less crime, traffic. They like the traffic. So, the city's always said a 15-minute city, and a lot of the common answers agreed. We have great traffic. The historic sites from downtown to our Palo Alto and our downtown. Their top concerns was a lack of specialty doctors, crime, financial literacy, cost of living, and the city's infrastructure not keeping up with the city's progress. The border perception, workforce demand, is it meeting the current education? Mid-level jobs, jobs available for 50 and over, and the permitting process. And opportunities that are missing was more family venues and events, music and event venues, children and teen-friendly places, other than the mall. YMCA was repeated many times. Stronger ties to Matamoros, indoor playground, remote worker attraction, and recycle recreation. And these were just the common ones. There was a lot of answers, and our consultants are actually putting that all together. So we'll have a report on that. So what's next in our plan? So they're going to wrap up their one-on-one interviews. I know a few of our board members weren't able to meet at the schedule, so they'll still do one-on-one as well as some of our city leadership. We're also conducting online surveys to get a deeper dive into key issues. Our first survey will go out tomorrow for housing. So we'll be broadcasting that to email blasts as well as all of our social media for them to, participate in the survey. After that's complete, the team's going to review and research all the findings from what our current conditions are to what is our key industry sectors, as well as what is impacting Brownsville and what are all the economic development efforts going on. So not just BCIC, but GBEC, the port, the city, all the partners involved in economic development. After that, we will go into a half a day with the board to refine our vision, our mission, our core values, our goals, and the priorities that have been uncovered through this process. After that, from what we've talked to them about from that vision is they will develop strategies that align with our goals that we identified with the community meetings, as well as review what has been done in the past, what is perception of success, what can we improve, what are our opportunities for partnership, and what can we raise to the next level of things that we're doing. And then the fourth is our action plan. So as we develop our goals, it will review our staff and our budget and define current operation areas that are successful, what we're lacking, and how we can fit into those initiatives that we've discovered, and develop an action matrix. So that is our living document. And from that, then we will host a stakeholders meeting to unveil what we found. And if we need to redefine, we need to put what's in your street, what's in our street, side of the road things, with our leadership, with all the economic development partners. So we have a true understanding of what our role is. So just also give you a little more update for BCIC. Back in January, we did, debt services paid off for the sports park. So we budget 3.3 million and it came out to 3.247. We had just 2 days ago closed out our eBridge specialist and marketing specialist job postings. So we received 41 applications. So Victoria is actually reviewing and we'll be scheduling the interviews within the next 2 weeks. Our quality of life agreements with the city projects are still pending city manager's signature, so we will be following up on that. And just on Tuesday, our quality of life cycle 1 has approved by the city commission. So project agreements are underway. Actually, Miriam has her first one tomorrow. During the town talks that we did, we did do a presentation on BCIC and what current programs we did. I also attended the Zoo BIC, the city subcommittee, to talk about the zoo expansion and the Cummings. So the city has hired a consultant to evaluate the current CTE program. And from there, they'll determine the opportunities to enhance and expand to the proposed locations and what will those costs look like. So it's moving forward. It's very promising, yeah. Recently, I got contacted by the Bay Area Houston Economic Development Partnership. They administer the State of Texas funded Space Alliance Technology Outreach Program. So the SATOP provides free technical assistance to small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs in Texas by providing 40 hours of free technical assistance on any engineering challenges that appear solvable within the 40-hour limit. If the project requires more than 40 hours, then Texas A&M composes 4 to 6 seniors, engineering seniors, spending 1 to 2 semesters developing the solutions to their problem. We are going to bring to you, hopefully next month, an MOU so we can have a relationship. So anytime we refer a possible applicant and the applicant gets approved to go into this program, we actually get a referral fee of $5,000. And so it's funded by the state. And just to let you know, Nathan's on paternity leave until March 25th on that. Any questions so far? And just quick on eBridge.
Sorry, I have a question on the strategic planning. Remind us again, when will be the completion of that process? Like we had a deadline for that.
We will finish the end of June. June to July is the delivery date for the stakeholders meeting.
Thank you.
And just wanted to give you a little update on eBridge. So recently, this past month, we celebrated our 1 million cup first anniversary. So to date, we've hosted 52 1 million cup events and served over 1,200 cups of coffee. So we were really excited. It was a really great turnout. We have welcomed a new tenant to eBridge. And so we currently have 3 tenants upstairs, and we actually have 3 interested entrepreneurs that we're pursuing on that. We are coordinating with ECC to celebrate our first anniversary because our anniversary is March 9th. So we're seeing what we can do on open houses, a network mixer, and possibly a market day to showcase the entrepreneurs that have come out of eBridge. And we are actually today, we just wrapped up our Bid Academy by Prairie View A&M University. It's a 9-session curriculum, teaches the business skills for working, managing, and doing business in government agencies. Participants become Hub certified and develop bid proposals. And next week, they'll actually have their graduation and they'll do some pitches in front of judges. So this is the first time Brownsville has hosted this. They usually host in Weslaco. And they only do it once a year. And our courtyard's almost complete. So I don't know if last time you saw it, but the city put in sidewalks around the perimeter. And we actually put grass in about 2 weeks ago. So it looks really good. The city has actually brought in some plants as well, some furniture. So it's usable space now for us. So we can actually open those doors. And that's it, just to give you an update on what's going on with BCIC. Y'all have any questions?
On the tenants, sorry, on the tenants spaces, did we change the rates or we kept it with the initial cost for the
On the lease rates,
spaces?
we changed them. We went lower.
So what's the average now?
The average is, for the dedicated desk, we're at 200, but is it 200 if they don't commit? If they commit. And then our single office is at 450. If they commit for so many months or month to month, it's 500. And the 3 offices are 600 or 500 if they commit for a year for us. So that has been more favorable in attracting people to the space. We were quite high. Thought we were comparable to other co-working places, but yet we didn't get any traction on that. Or we got interest, but nobody committed. But now that we dropped, reevaluated the prices, we've got some traction on that.
And those tenants we have, do they have the offices or just the desks so far? The 3 tenants that we have currently.
I'm sorry, say
They
it one
have
more
the
time.
office, like they're renting offices or just the desks?
They're in the offices?
The offices, right?
Yeah. They're in the same, it's 2 occupy the single offices, and 1 is looking at occupying a 3-person office, and we do have 1 at a dedicated desk. We actually thought the dedicated desk would be more popular, and we found out it's not, and it was probably because of the price. So we're making that more attainable, usable for them to come and be able to have, this is my spot, I have a monitor, I just have to plug in my laptop. Compared to downstairs, you bring all your stuff. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corey. We're going to move on to our next report, which is the marketing report. This is item number 5, Q4 marketing report by Nelson.
Hello, board. It's been a while since we last spoke, and I was hoping for this report to be the one in which we presented the annual report. However, we decided to do a joint annual report and do fiscal year 22 and 23 for the annual reports. It's taken a little bit longer than expected, so hopefully the next time we talk, I will present both reports together, the quarterly report and the annual report together. So just for you to not be in the dark about the things we've been doing, at least on the marketing side, for the last quarter, I'm presenting this report. So, and also for the new board member as a refresher to you and for the new board member to know what I showed you last time. These are the marketing channels that we have as BCIC to push out our messaging. We have a bunch of channels, 19 total. And well, at least I think with the hiring of a new team members, it will be a lot of help for us to actually push out more messaging through all of these channels, and taking into account that we have actually grown our social media a lot since I first got here. You can see that we have grown in all of the platforms. Engagement has gone down a little bit on a couple of social accounts, but at least on audience, they have all grown quite a bit. You can see that in Startup Texas, there's a 3.8 million growth rate, but that's because the account didn't exist before this. So that's why it's a tremendous growth on that one. On the email side, compared to last quarter, we sent 32,000 emails this past quarter. Out of those, almost 21,000 emails were open, and 1.3% of the people clicked on their email. So it's a little bit under the average of the industry, but we still got a good response out of our audience. And well, for this period, for this coming quarter, I hope that we grow our audience and we have a little bit more response as well. And well, this is our main tool to reach out to our community, and this is the tool that we use to get people to our town talks that Corey mentioned. So I think it's a pretty good it's been working pretty good. Any questions so far, by the way?
Are these contacts personal contacts or these are entities, like the 3,500?
We have
46.
entities, we have people from the university, we have people that have signed up for the programs, that have shown interest in previous programs, 1 million cups. This is a mix of all of the people that have shown interest in things that BCIC has organized in the past.
So like, based on what you know, would you say like, is it 50-50, 40-60, like in terms of entities versus personal, or we can't?
I don't have an exact figure, but
Okay.
I can
we look at
actually
that, please?
look at the tax and give you an exact figure.
Thank
you. And at the end of the last presentation, I presented a list of goals things I wanted to do for the next quarter. So this is an update on those things. One of the things I presented was I wanted to create one-pagers for all of our programs so people can easily and efficiently know if they're qualified and know all the requirements they have to actually apply to our programs, or to know if they can actually get a spot or e-rich in both languages. I have worked on a couple of those. I haven't finished all of them, but at least we have recovery fund. We have one for e-rich lease spaces and one for the quality of life grants, both in English and Spanish. And that's the update on those. We have an easy way to know if you are eligible. And all of them have a QR code that leads you to the website on which you can apply. On the big grants, we printed the stickers that we talked about. We printed the yard signs that we talked about. On the annual report we're working on, we also started to develop success stories, not only in the e-rich fund side that we usually did. Now we're developing success stories in all of the programs that we have. So WUO is one of the examples that you will be seeing in the next report. And actually, it's going to be posted soon. So the annual report is not going to only serve as a report, but also as multiple pieces of content for our social media, and also to promote all of our programs. I also talked about an impact map to showcase all the programs that BCIC, or all the places that have received help, or projects that have received help by BCIC. And this map is going to be included on the website. The website is already being worked on. It already talked to the developers, and they said that this was possible, so we're working on it. We already have the first draft meeting this week, so this is going to be included on the website. You will be able to toggle on and off to see, let's say you want to see all the big projects. You just toggle it on. You'll be able to see where are these big projects at. Or the Startup Texas startups, where are they located? You will be able to do that on the map. Yes.
This is great. I love this map, and hopefully it's going to be interactive very, very soon.
Yeah.
Can we add to the investment and all of that, like maybe number of lawyers, or I don't know, like something reflecting the size of these businesses, the different type of sizes, or different, like maybe retail or restaurant, like type of categories. Was looking for the word category, and also actually number of employment for each one of these, if we can. I mean, but this is great. This is
So basically you're saying like they're organized right now by the number of the grant, but you're saying like by category, it might be more helpful for the public.
not necessarily organized. Just like when you click on that, you don't know if this is what is the Morning Glory. We know it, right? Because we look
Right.
at, but like I want to, for outsiders to, okay, this is a restaurant, or this is this is
I
a
like that
retail
idea too.
store, or this is
Great idea.
you know what I'm saying? This doesn't have to be organized.
Or maybe it's a second.
Alphabetically, just like, okay, when you click on Morning Glory, it is under restaurant. You
Yeah,
click
maybe
on-
like a second map by category. So like they could see it by, like, I'm gonna go visit one of the big restaurants.
All retail, our restaurants, all experiences. Okay. Let me write it down. Thank you. Okay. No more questions on this one? I'll get into this.
I had one question on the previous success stories, which sound incredible. Just curious, have they been picked up by any news articles or maybe other magazines?
Not yet. I haven't
yet.
seen, at least not that I know of.
Okay, thanks.
Also, I talked about board meeting transparency. So now, after I talked about that, every board meeting has been promoted in our social media. So people are now encouraged to actually come and participate and comment and do public comments and join the live streams. And that has been done since the last time we spoke. And well, we haven't had much participation, but at least it's out there and hopefully it picks up and we have a full room next time. We also talked about the eRich Fund quotes campaign. So these are phrases or quotes you usually hear before having that aha moment, before starting a business, which were the promos used to get people into our info session. We got 62 RSVPs. Out of those, we had 25 attendees. And well, people went to the session, and those were not converted into eRich Fund applicants, but those actually applied to Startup Texas and to some of the programs that we offer at eRich. So some of them are still in the pipeline, and I hope, well, it's a process that takes a couple of months, but they stay with us and they go through this journey of entrepreneurship and maybe starting Kaufman, and when they're ready to apply to eRich Fund, they actually go through this pipeline and end up applying to the program that we promoted with these quotes. Also, I wanted to highlight some of the things we did. We hosted the Texas Venture Crawl with the partners of the Texas Venture Alliance. We had people from all the Valley attend the event. Some investors that have never been at eRich went there and they connected with people from both Matamoros and Brownsville. We also have our Startup Texas SBIR STTR cohort with 120 plus attendees. And I really like this one because we gave everyone that participated an award. So no one went home without empty-handed. So that was great. This is another success story that I wanted to highlight because they were finally open after months and months of trying and being in downtown. And they're not only part of the eRich Fund, but also part of the big grants. And well, this is a little sneak peek of the annual report that we're working on, which on each section of the annual report, it will contain at least one success story for each of the programs. So one for BIG, one for recovery, one for eRich Fund, and so on. So we're working on that. And moving forward, our biggest thing coming up is the RGB Startup Week. And by the end of this quarter, I hope that we can have all the tracks, all the speakers, and at least 200 RSVPs ready by the end of the quarter. We also are hoping to have 50% occupancy of the second floor of the eRich. We're on that, on track on that. I have someone ask for the dedicated desk today. Someone yesterday too, so it's picking up, the interest is picking up. We will, yeah, it's getting there, and I think it's part of the town talks. Many people knew about eRich for the first time because of the town talks. We're gonna build a list of big eligible properties on downtown, so people can actually look into the list and know, okay, if I wanna start a project, this is the property I might tap into. We also, I've been eating downtown and sitting down with the owners of the restaurants, and they don't know about the programs, maybe because they don't have social media or just because they are not tech savvy. So I've been sitting down with them and talking with them about the programs. So maybe not only social media, but trying to actually sit down with people. And now that it's tax season, talking with tax preparers and, hey, you have a list of clients. Let us talk with them, or let me talk with you and you have people that you can help. And we'll complete the one-pagers for all the programs, complete the first draft for the BCIC website, and lastly, one long format piece of content for the website. And this could be success stories or blog posts of any kind. So just so we can have more of our impact out there. And yes, that's the report. Any questions?
Thank you. One question, go ahead.
The website, when it's gonna be finalized and ready?
The first draft, it's gonna be finalized by the end of this quarter, and After that, they have to code it, so it's going to take at least 2 months. So I'm hoping by the end of the second quarter, it should be ready. By the end of the second quarter.
End of the second quarter?
Yeah, end of the second quarter. Yeah.
What's that mean, like June?
It will be,
We need it months.
yeah.
Like, you work with quarters. I work with-
Yeah, I know.
All right, so June, July, something like that?
I'm counting in my head. Yeah,
Is that normal though? Like, does it usually take that long to
Yeah.
get the website?
the eRich website took 9 months, I think.
Wow.
And we're just we just had the first meeting with the website developers this week. So I'm going to try to move it faster this time because we have most of the content already built on the current website. So we just have to move something over, but we need to build some tools as well. So yeah.
I'm excited about seeing the occupancy go. What's our current occupancy at right now?
The offices?
Yeah.
Well, we had 3 tenants on the offices and 1 at the desk. And on the first floor, we have around 30 people on the member list.
So we are what, maybe 30%? I don't know the total.
What's you say you want 50% occupancy. Are we at 30%, 40%
So right now, that would be. That would be 6. So that would be 6 desks and, 7 total. Yeah, 7 total.
So we're at 3 out of the 7 that we
Yep.
need to fill. Thank you.
25, close to 25.
Yeah, so I'm confident because we have people asking every day.
Great, thank you.
Are there other questions for Nelson? Okay, thank you, Nelson.
Thank you.
Really nice report. We're going to move on to agenda item number 6, which is our consideration and action to authorize the issuance of bank signature cards and have authority to sign BCIC checks and ACH payments to the BCIC Board of Directors and the CEO President.
So this is just something we do every year, especially if we get a new board member. So it's just authorizing board members to be authorized to sign checks for BCIC. And just a reminder, our checks are 2 signatures. And I only sign when we can't get another board member to sign, and then we have to have that check out. So I rarely sign. And then also the authorization of the ACH payments. You guys have any questions?
Is there a motion?
Move
a motion to
adoption of
approve.
resolution number 2024-001.
Tracy's
Second.
got the motion. Cesar has a second. Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Corey. We're going to move on to item number 7, which is discussion and acknowledgement of the January 2024 financials. And our presentation today is by Rafael Garcia, accountant with the City of Brownsville.
Good afternoon, Board. Mrs. Chairman. Okay, today we're presenting the financials as of January 31, 2024. The first slide that we're showing are the total assets BCIC has. We have 15,164,430, 516,488 in liabilities, with a total net assets of 14,647,942. The second slide is the income statement, unaudited revenues and expenditures. We show total revenues of $2,508,420. Expenditures through January 31st of $4,145,098. So as of January 31st, we're under $1,636,678. And the reason being for the bond deficiency that was paid off in January, the 3.246. On the fund balances slide, we're showing fund balances totaling of $14,647,942. 2,246,574 unrestricted. Restricted fund balance, 9,401,367. And for the fund balance reserved for a rainy day at 3 million. And the restricted is on the ongoing projects that have been approved already. And the last slide I'm showing are the sales tax collections. Through December, we have received 2,084,234 compared to last year's through December, 1,889,904. So we had an increase of 194,000 in sales tax collections through December. As you can recall, sales taxes were behind a month because we don't get the January figures until March. Any questions?
Yes, so we had a $3 million increase in the expenditure, right? So that was paying off the sports park, is that right?
Well, that was to pay off the bonds, yes, on the sports park, yes, the bonds that were.
So that, it's on the paid or unpaid contract commitments sheet, which, thank you for adding committed balance. That's helpful for me to know what has been committed, what's not. So the sports park, I'm looking for, okay, I see it. Debt service transfers to BCIC. Okay, got it.
Right.
But there's still, okay, so the balance is just what we got it from the budget. We expected 3.3 million.
Correct, and it was actually a little bit less.
Got it.
So
Thank
it
you.
freed up the 52,000, 53,000 was freed, which is
Right.
gonna be carried over to the unrestricted.
Okay. Thanks again for this.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Other questions? Okay, do we have any motions on the floor?
Actually, before you have a
Yes.
motion, I just want to thank Rafael, Lizeth, and Victoria. They've been working this whole month trying to get the financials to where it's understandable, easy to read, and to really show a more transparency on what we have committed and what's the percentage and where we're going with our financials each month. So thank you all for that. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, you're welcome. Thank you.
Are there additional questions or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of acknowledging the January 2024 financials?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We're going to move on to agenda item number 8, which is consideration and action to approve the following applications for the Brownsville Small Business Recovery Fund contingent upon receiving additional documentation from applicants as required by the Housing and Urban Development HUD federal agency. A is Riverside Palace. It's a party venue by Patti Anal Overa, micro enterprise category for $10,000.
All right, so I do want to give a quick summary because we have a new board member and it's her first time presenting an application for this program. So what the Recovery Fund is, it's a program that was created to assist the businesses that were affected by the pandemic. Okay, so in order to be eligible, the business has to be located within the Brownsville city limits. It has to demonstrate that it had at least 15% or more loss during the pandemic, and we have 2 categories. We have a micro enterprise, which we provide $10,000, or we have a small business category, which we provide $20,000. It all depends on how many employees they have. We have the micro enterprise, which is 1 to 5 employees, and then the small business category, which is 6 to 50 employees. So we have the application for today. It's a micro business category. It has been reviewed. Right now, we're just pending the environmental review report from the city. So this is what we have right now. Have any questions? If approved, we would have a balance of $351,667 for this grant.
Is there an expiration for these funds to be distributed by?
Well, we have right now until the end of December of this year to spend the remaining balance.
And these, how many applicants did you have since the last?
Right now, I did include a list of the applicants that have been denied or applicants that have withdrawn their application. I included also a reason of why. Right now, I have 2 pending applications that I'm working with the city, and I requested additional documents from the applicants, which is why I didn't include them, but hopefully we could include them in our next board meeting.
Okay, so I guess
Which ones are new and which ones are old from this list? Is that what your
Well,
question is?
more like, I guess my concern is, the flow. Just, we've got 361 left, about almost halfway through the year. Well, actually till December, you said, right?
Mhm.
So I guess that's not terrible, but, one is, what do you anticipate, like, how you can increase the number of applicants?
Well, like Nelson was mentioning, we have to reach out in a different way other than social media. Social media is not working. There's other businesses that I've reached out to that they don't have social media and they didn't know about this program that existed. So we're looking to different ways on how to reach out to those businesses more, which is maybe door to door.
So how are you finding businesses in general? Like when you said.
Oh,
reach out-
some of the businesses that have applied lately have been recommended by other businesses that have applied already.
I would look at the comptroller's website for sales tax permits.
Mhm.
They list the entire state who has a permit. It's essentially their business. And there's about 6,000 in Brownsville.
Okay.
So that might be a good resource.
Yeah, that, and we've also been thinking on reaching out to bookkeepers, accountants. I mean, they provide services to the small businesses, so just to let them know that we have this program available for their clients.
In general, what is the criteria to be able to apply for these funds?
They must be able to demonstrate that they had 15% or more loss during the pandemic, which is the year 2020. So what we do is we compare the income tax from 2019 to the income tax of 2020, and the loss has to be reflected in the year of 2020. And yeah, that's another thing. So in order to be eligible, so like I mentioned, we have 2 categories, the micro enterprise. The business owner has to be a low to moderate income individual. And it's sometimes also hard to find a business owner that's a low to moderate income individual, right? Or we have the small business category where they have to employ low to moderate income individuals. So that's also a criteria that we look into.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion by Cesar, second by Tracy. Any additional questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 9, which is the consideration and action to approve the sponsorship request from the Come Dream, Come Build CDCB for the Cara Cara Trails Marketing Awareness Campaign in the amount of $30,000.
Good evening, board. So BCIC received a sponsorship request from CDCB to market the Cara Cara Trails. It was originally a Cycle 1 application for quality of life, but because of the scope, it was recommended for them to apply for our marketing and special events fund, which we have available to market special events for nonprofits. Typically, those requests come either through the office of the executive or through the VP, right, our vice president, or through Nelson. And so right now we're working internally to streamline that process so that it comes through one direct person. But we did receive the sponsorship request for $30,000 for the Cara Cara Trails, and the scope included search engine optimization for $4,000, web development for $6,000, social media marketing and boosting for $4,000, marketing materials for $7,000, and programming for free community exercise programs. And basically, if you approve the funding today, then they can go ahead and begin the marketing of the Cara Cara Trails. Are there any questions?
The marketing materials, number 4,
Yes.
the brochures and flags, and I mean, do they have an idea or a plan for how they're going to distribute these kind of materials?
Not specifically. So they did just hire a program manager. And so they were able to put this together. They didn't provide us with how they would distribute them, but we can definitely get that from them.
Be good to kind of have an idea of how that would be utilized, right?
Okay.
At special events, are they going to put brochures all over, local areas and businesses, or?
Sure.
I do want to thank Miriam. She did work with CDCB to kind of tweak their requests. And so number 5 was something we suggested them to include, was to how can we activate it with activities with the sponsorship.
What was the budget for this program this year? How much funds we have?
I believe it's $100,000.
We have roughly, I think, 87,000 remaining right now. So if with this approval, then we have a little over 50,000 left.
And this fund will be still available until December, until the end of this year, or until?
Till September.
September, sorry.
Mhm. I know the city is looking to bring back a birding festival, so that's something we might want to consider a partnership with for some of that, whatever remaining funds are left. And we're also looking to see where we can work with other entities to, have a more, marketing campaign that is a community-wide involvement.
Is Cara Cara Trails, is that like a nonprofit? Is it a?
So Cara Cara is a program that's part of CDCB, which CDCB is a nonprofit. And it was formed after the active transportation and active tourism plan recommended for this creation of a regional wide trail system. Any other questions?
Any additional questions?
Is CVB doing anything to support this?
The CVB, I'm not too sure. I know that was a question that was posed previously, but I would have to ask.
They could probably assist in promoting it on their website and social media, but they can't put money towards this campaign because it's not, to use hot taxes, it has to be 50 miles outside city limits.
Okay, do we have any motions?
I have a motion to approve the request by CDCB.
You got a
Second.
motion on the floor? Right. Sassad is our second. Any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. We're going to move on to item number 10, which is consideration and action to approve the request for the following fiscal year 2024 business improvement and growth big property improvement applications. We have items A through C.
Thank you. So just to provide a quick recap on our business improvement and growth program, also known as BIG, it provides grant incentives to downtown property and business owners wanting to either rehabilitate the buildings for occupancy, or if you're a new expanding business into downtown Brownsville, we also offer rent subsidies. And so these are 3 applications that we received for this month. The first one is by Solaris Management Solutions. They are the property owners of 935 East Elizabeth Street, which was the previous Sears building. Their total project cost is $101,649. The amount that's being requested for this scope specifically, which includes the installation of new aluminum canopies, similar to what was originally there, the soft wash of the facade, exterior lighting fixtures for safety, and a new gutter system. So that scope is around $57,842. And so the maximum amount that you can qualify for facade improvement for standard rehabilitation is $25,000. And it's a 50-50 match. So what that means is for every dollar of eligible expenses, we can reimburse $1. And so even though their total project cost is higher, the maximum amount that we can award is $25,000. The end use of the building, they have one existing restaurant there, which is Nolita, New York Pizzeria. And then there's another upcoming business, which is Monarca Mexican Restaurant. Also, the tenant is a big recipient for the build out of the interior space. And then to the far right of the building, that's currently vacant, but they want to turn that into retail spaces for shopping. Is there any questions for this particular project?
They already started it, right?
So they, as you can see in the pictures, they have begun some of the work. As you can see, like they started with some of the canopies and things like that. They're still pending some of the soft washing and things like that. So what we can reimburse is for the scope that hasn't been completed, that hasn't been started, that hasn't been started as of the approval of the application.
Why is that? Why we're not approving projects that is near completion or completed that already, spend the money on? And it's like reimbursement, the same thing. Why we're not doing that?
I don't think your mic's on. I can hear a little bit.
Why we're not reimbursing projects that near completion? Why we are making it like it has to be about to start? I mean, if somebody's already invested and about to complete the project, why
Sure.
we're not offering them the incentive? Okay, you did what you did. I mean, actually, it's going to make it easier for us to track because it's like it's completed. It's was complete and they're spending the money. So, you know what I'm saying? Rather than you have to start now.
That makes sense. And since the onset of the program, that's been the regulation, right? That we have to wait for board approval. I mean, if that's something that board is willing to consider. But it's typically because, so if somebody starts the work beforehand and then it doesn't get approved, we just don't want there to be money expended before.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like somebody already, like these guys, they did, let's say 50% of the facade already completed, right?
Okay.
And they're coming to us for money for that portion of the work. I mean, I don't see a reason why not, because eventually we're going to ask them to complete the work, even if we give them the money, right? For the new project, we want them to complete the work so we can give them the money. Correct?
Eventually, I didn't hear this.
If we approve them for today, right? We're not going to give them the money up front. We're going to ask them to complete the work so we can give them the money. So it's reimbursement.
Yes.
So it's the same for now. Like somebody's coming to us. I did the work in the last 3 months. I completed it, right? Can you help me out with, reimbursing some of these expenses? You know what I'm saying? It's the same concept. So that's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm going for. Like why we have to, no, it has to be a new start now, The second question I have is, don't we have already the pizza place, the Lolita place, they're already existing in that building or no? Or this is a new site?
Do we have the, what, I'm sorry?
The pizza place.
The big
The
guideline?
pizza.
The pizza place is
Oh, the
already there,
pizza?
right? It's already open.
Yeah,
Am I-
if it's already existing, yes.
So they have already their own facade or they changing that completely?
So the Nolita Pizza, what we funded was their sign only. Yeah, they never came to us for any exterior or facade work other than signage.
And the last question, I know it's beyond our scope, but just for clarification, I'm assuming they got the permit from the city and the historical preservation is approving this facade?
Yes.
Okay, just not sure if it fits.
Yes, we do require them to, we do require them to get a certificate of appropriateness for any exterior facade work. I wouldn't let them get away without it. So the next application is from New York Steakhouse and Bistro, which is the tenant at 902 East Adams Street. The total project cost for this is $100,000. This particular application is for facade improvement. Again, the maximum amount that they can receive is $25,000. The project scope is for the perimeter fence, which is $20,000. So the grant amount is for $10,000. Their estimated completion time is May 2024. And the end use would be a restaurant with live music and outdoor seating, and that's why they want that perimeter fencing. And then they also submitted an application for interior MEP. And so for the interior, it's $80,000 for a new electrical, plumbing, ADA restrooms, installation of a kitchen fire suppression system. And so the grant amount requested is the maximum allowable, which is $35,000. And again, it would be for the same restaurant, New York Steak and Bistro at this location.
So for the fence, for this one, are we treating it as exterior?
Yes, we are taking it as an exterior, as a facade application, just because it includes additional outdoor seating.
Got it. So what's our max for the exterior?
$25,000.
So why we're limiting it to 10?
Because it's a 50-50 match. So if their cost is 20,000, which is, they have to submit a bid, right? They submit contractor bids. So what they were bidded was $20,000 for the perimeter fence. And so we reimburse them half. So we go based off of, the grant amount requested is based off of the contractor bid that's submitted to us.
In the total project, that 100K,
Yes.
what's that else include? Is that the interior stuff? Or that's
Yes,
something
the
else?
interior is the 80,000 remaining.
Got it.
But the maximum amount for interior is 35,000. So they're receiving the maximum for the interior because based on their bid, it's $80,000.
But when you review the application, do you check to see if some work has already been completed or have they done any work at all on the property?
Do we check if they've started on the work?
Yeah, started
Yes.
projects in the property and.
We do. We do check.
I don't know if you mentioned that. When is it's anticipated to complete the project here? The
Um,
completion?
This is estimated to be completed May 2024.
Chair, can we
Yes.
vote on these one by one? Do I have to make a motion for that? To vote one
His
by?
question was, can we vote on one by one? A, B, C, D, A, B, C? Separately.
But do I have
Vote
to
on
make a
them.
motion?
Independently, it depends what motion one of the
Okay.
members makes.
Yep, you can make a motion for A, B, or C.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve A.
A. There's a motion on the floor to approve A. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other questions about A? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, do you have a
Aye.
question?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do we have any other motions?
I'll make a motion to approve B.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve B. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any additional motions?
I'll make a motion to approve C.
Seth made a motion for C.
Second.
Murad has a second. All those in favor of approving C?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank you, guys. Motion carries. We're going to move on to item 11, which is discussion, consideration, and action to amend the quality of life program guidelines.
Thank you. So we bring to you for consideration and discussion on the following items based on the previous discussion for the quality of life program. So what I'll be covering today is the financial documents that are required, the data on Brownsville nonprofits that was requested by some of our board members, and then what our existing application review looks like. So for the nonprofit data, I looked on the IRS website and I was able to download the exempt organization's business master file, which lists basically all of the nonprofits in Texas. And then I condensed that to include only Brownsville nonprofits. And so that spreadsheet showed that there's 373 nonprofits in Brownsville. 37 of those have revenues of $250,000 or more. 19 have annual revenues between $100,000 and $249,000. And 317 of those nonprofits are either not required or do not report annual revenues. And that's typically because their gross receipts are under $50,000 and they don't have to file like a 990 EZ or anything like that. We put together this list of sample nonprofits of organizations that have, accessed funding, BCIC funding. There's 20 total, and I've included that spreadsheet in your packet. The ones that are highlighted in yellow, those were still pending verification of their organization's policy. So basically the way that we've sorted this is through annual revenues, right, from highest to lowest. We've included what the organization's current policy is right now, what controls they have in place, do they have reviewed financials, or do they have audited financials, what BCIC's existing guidelines are, right, like those that make less than 90,000 are only required to essentially confirm that they have controls in place, that they're keeping accurate financials. Those between 100,000 and 250,000 have to have an audited review, and then those over 250,000 between 100,000 and 250, they have to have a reviewed financial, and over 250, they have to have an audited financial. And so based off of BCIC's current guidelines, would they be eligible? And so as you can see, out of the 13 that have over 250,000 annual revenues, we have 5 would currently be eligible for the program. We're still pending 3 of them to get back to us as to what their current policies in place. A lot of these nonprofits, they don't know the difference between what an audited financial is, what a reviewed financial is. They just say we work with the CPA and they look over our books. And so we've had to really explain to them what data we're looking for. And an audited financial is basically an assurance from the CPA firm that all of your financials are in order, and they're providing that assurance themselves. Like they're saying, yes, we've thoroughly reviewed all of your financials, and basically we're saying that you're good to go. A reviewed financial is, put this down. It is kind of confusing. Reviewed financial is essentially just them acknowledging, but it's not an assurance. It's just, well, we looked and you seem good to go, but we're not going to put our stamp of approval. And that's usually, the least or less expensive than than an audited financial. And so after the 250,000, we have that group that's between the 100 and 250,000. And so we're still pretty much pending for quite a bit of them to get back to us. But we thought we'd put this together for you so you can, basically determine how you'd like to move forward with this portion of the guidelines. And I don't know, it looks a little bit overlapped, but I'm going to go over what our current guideline is and what some of the recommendations that we came up with. And then you can have an active discussion from there. So the current guideline for organizations with revenues less than $100,000 are not required to have an audit or review. An applicant must certify that it has controls in place to ensure that funds are properly accounted for. So the recommendation would be to change the wording from organizations to nonprofit organizations and for-profit businesses, just to be a little more definitive on that definition. This change will only apply each time the word organizations is mentioned. And then for-profit businesses, for funding requests over $50,000, the business must provide the previous 2 years of income taxes for the business and a financial audit. And so currently the way that this is written is, a for-profit business making less than 100,000, including well, because it's an organization, a for-profit business could come and they wouldn't have to have either a financial audit in place and could request funding. And so that's why we want that clarification on what we mean by organization. And so nonprofit organizations is one, and then for-profit business would be the other. And then the next guideline, which is the organizations.
Sorry to interrupt. It doesn't seem like it's helping anyway. For the nonprofits, we're not requesting audit, but for profit businesses, you're requesting this particular.
Right.
Okay. So, and you're going to distinguish that in the language.
Yes, we would distinguish.
Can you share a little bit, what's the rationale by why you would have different guidelines for for-profit and nonprofit, just for my understanding?
So for the for-profit businesses, we're requesting for an audited financial just because we want to make sure, well, actually for everybody, right? We want to make sure that the organization or the business is financially stable, and we want to ensure that any funding that is given is that they're fiscally responsible and that they can not only complete the project, that there's the financial capacity to do so, and then also maintain whatever project is completed after the fact, because that is one of the main criteria that we look for, is that this project has to be sustainable after the 1 year that the project has been completed. Any other questions?
So you're adding for-profit businesses because you found that there's few nonprofits available?
We've always allowed for-profit businesses to apply by state statute. It's allowed, but we didn't differentiate when we're talking about organizations. So we want to make sure that when we're saying organizations, or that we eliminate that word completely and we differentiate between a nonprofit and a for-profit. Does that make sense?
So with the current guidelines, a for-profit business could have applied?
Yes. Yes, because states, so we have to follow the state statute for this funding, and it's an allowable, a for-profit business can tap into this funding for skill development, things like that, job creation, infrastructure improvements, things like that.
Are there any other questions on this first recommendation before we move to the next one? Okay, let's move on to the middle of the screen.
So the next guideline is organizations, so this would be the next bracket, right? The organizations with revenues of at least 100,000 and less than 250,000 are required to have reviewed financials performed by an independent public accountant. So the way that we broke this down is also by the grant funding request. So let's say somebody, a nonprofit organization comes and is requesting funding for less than $50,000 or less, then that nonprofit would provide a Form 990 for the 2 previous years. Sorry, there's a typo there. For the 2 previous years. If the funding request is over $50,000, then there would be no change to the existing requirement. We would still require a reviewed financial. And if you approve this, then this stipulation, right, of not needing the reviewed financial, if you're requesting less than 50,000, then it would be effective through September 2025. And so for fiscal year 2026, then it would revert back to the current guidelines if that's what you decide. And so for profit businesses, it would be, you know, anytime that they ask for funding over 50,000, they would have to provide not only their tax returns but also a financial audit. Are there any questions?
Yes.
This
So 2 questions.
Sure.
For organizations with very small budgets, 990 EZ is accepted. So one question is, would that be accepted here? And the second question is, for those who are not required to file 990, is a pro forma 990 acceptable? And if so, perhaps we should make that clear in the guidelines.
Sure. So in my research, I found that the organizations that make less than $50,000 in gross receipts only have to file a 990N. And so that could possibly be something that we accept. Yes. But yes, we're open to recommendations or suggestions on what would be an acceptable form of financials. But typically, yeah, the Form 990N is something for like smaller organization, and EZ is for anybody that makes over $50,000, but less than $200,000. And then there's another one for like the larger organizations.
Some organizations only have to do a postcard, which is why perhaps being explicit about a pro forma,
Okay.
because a postcard isn't going to give you any information at all if that's what they're required to file.
Right.
Do
yes,
you
I
have
can-
more slides beyond this one? Or is this it? This is just not in the packet. I would just ask, I mean, it's in the printed packet, but it's not in the electronic packet. So if it can be added along with the sample nonprofits list, the spreadsheet, that would be helpful, just to, you know, because like the one I just checked right now from the link was updated a couple days ago. This was not included.
Yes.
My 2 questions. First is about the date. I'm confused. You're saying we're not going to do these changes until next year? Like it's going to be effective by next year?
So these changes or any recommendations that you make today will be made effective immediately, and they will expire at the end of fiscal year 2025, or basically they'll expire September 2025.
Got it. So okay.
So that'll give the existing nonprofits enough time for them to kind of get all their documents, financial documents in order to meet the original requirements.
And for over the 50, I'm having a hard time reading what's beneath that. It says we request financial review or financial audit.
So
Or if they're asking for more than 50,000?
yes, if they're asking for more than 50,000, then we will continue to ask for the review. But if they're requesting less than 50,000, we will ask for a 990. And so a review is different from an audit,
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
and it's usually less expensive.
And the reason for that is because organizations between 100,000 and 250,000, if they're asking for $50,000 or more, we want to make sure that their wheelhouse, they have the staffing, they have the capabilities to do this project and sustain it. Because at 50,000 for an organization that makes just a little bit more than that, we really got to make sure they have the staffing in place.
So how much is the review on average? Does it cost? Do we know that?
We've heard anywhere between, I don't know, $4,000 to $5,000. So an audit is about 10,000, just because it requires a lot more work.
And also the time. How long does it take to complete a review? So we need to consider all of that. Just bringing this up because even if we say, yeah, okay, let's go ahead, that will make it about 3-4 months down the road for these entities to even be qualified again. So there is another tender restriction that we're adding right there. But I appreciate the breakdown and the efforts here to start going down the road. But just we need to keep this in mind.
You know, I feel like this program kind of got off on the wrong foot, got sort of derailed. And, you know, a lot of nonprofits I've been hearing were confused. And so I guess to me, what I'd like to do is I would like to, I mean, this is a reimbursable program, right? So they do the work, they show that they did it, then we reimburse them. And an audit or a financial review, I'm not exactly sure like what sort of confidence that would give us in, that they will actually do the project. Now, I guess anybody can turn around and, I don't know, sell parts off, right? I mean, I don't know if, somebody does a community garden, they can, say, okay, well, we're gonna just sell all the other supplies that we got. I mean, that's a reputational risk for them if they do that. But I'm trying to figure out a way that will sort of correct what happened with the cycle 1 applicants. And, considering also that we have very little time with this pending vote in May for the municipal development district, that really these applicants, I believe, would only have the next 2 months to apply. So if the vote goes through, is that?
I don't think that's the case.
So they.
Corey, can you clarify? Because what my understanding
No,
was is
until
that
the-
our business continues until our money runs out.
Our obligations have been suffice, as well
that's
as we
obligations
have our
are-
budget till September.
Yeah, so we would continue to be able to take applications until?
Yeah.
Until when?
Well, our last cycle is August. Because
So
we already
August to
have funds
September.
dedicated for those projects. If we don't deplete it for the March cycle.
My
So-
understanding is that on May 4th, if the citizens vote for both propositions, then BCIC and GBIC are effectively done. And they're not allowed to spend more, or at least commit more money. The thing is that the quality of life program is just a budget, but we've only committed a certain amount so far. And if I understand, it's only like one or two, couple applicants, right? So it's about $700,000-800,000. So, on May 4th, it could be that, we're told, I'm sorry, thanks, wrap it up. And, spend whatever you've committed, but don't commit anymore. So I think
Is that the
maybe-
case? Do we know for sure? Is this a
I
question we
can
ask Will?
ask legal, I can ask the city's legal, Deborah, we can verify, but from my conversations is our budget is, we already have it budgeted into the.
Because if that's the
so we
case,
get
it
to-
really does change the strategy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't think we have the time right now to wait for council. I think we need to, what I would recommend is, say the vote it goes down and we stick around. Then let's revisit this. If we want to do this program next year, let's revisit these guidelines. But in the interest of time and simplicity and doing right by, what happened to the first cycle, I think we should just, remove a lot of these requirements for auditing and financial review, revisit it next year. And then I'd be happy with staff, using their best judgment to decide whether or not a business or a nonprofit could handle such a project.
I agree with Mark right now. I mean, I think this is good, but I think we're already wasted about how many months, and we're gonna wait for another few months, and just let's start helping these entities actually do the work that they do, right? And since this reimbursement, there is no risk in terms of like we're gonna just give the money and wait for them to do it. They have to do the work, then we're gonna reimburse them, right? So there is that kind of our guarantee or safe check right there. Meanwhile, we are going through this exercise to hopefully have a very good guideline that actually match our needs here in the region. And this data here is very helpful because it's already it's showing us like, yeah, we can't really adhere to the original guideline because then many of our entities here will not be qualified, right, based on the situation, right? So we maybe even invent some way to help them out by actually helping them conduct these financial reviews and auditing through this year, right? Create a program to help these entities. Okay, this is what a review looks like. This is what an audit looks like. This is what these are the requirements. Maybe you need all of you start doing the review this year, right? We'll help you with that. We get you connected with the entities that could do these things, right, for you, so you can be better prepared for the next cycle. Does that make sense?
I know Cesar wants to say something. Go ahead.
So I guess we're saying Miriam did all this work for nothing? Is that what we're saying? I said Miriam did all this work for nothing? Is that what we're saying?
No, I think it could be used for the following year.
Jokingly aside, I thank you for what you did. I think that there was a lot of questions in the air. We were able to bring you back to the table. You provided a solution to a lot of the uncertainties that were out there. So I just wanted to thank you, first of all, Miriam. Thank you for this, for putting this together. I know it took up a lot of your time. But with that being said, Mark does bring a good point. Is there, we don't know what the outcome is. Is it true? Are we running out of time? I mean, what's the purpose of tweaking this if by May, whatever, we're done? So I don't know. I mean, I'm good either way. I mean, but I also wanted to commend Miriam for her work. I think we're on the right path. It's just, I guess we kind of have to make a decision based on unanswered questions, right? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, I think that we can, considering that an audit requirement was never in the original guidelines that we approved, I think we can, just proceed and use the staff's best judgment about the financial soundness of an organization in terms of how that relates to, if can they complete the project and afterward, can they maintain it? So.
The quality of that project, it's not just about the financial auditing. Remember, this is about quality of life, like what this project bring into or how it adds into the quality of life for the citizens, right? That's the essence or the main concept behind this program, right? So most of these entities that we see on the list, they do their share, efforts collectively they hopefully improve the quality of life in our city, right? So we'll see each program, each entity, what they bring to the table, and we'll help them, guide them. But I think it's good to know this information. I agree with Cesar. I really commend you on what you have done. I think it's great, information to know and build on it, right? And also help these entities. Even if they don't get the funds, we tell them, right, okay, you are in this bracket, you need financial review, you need, and these are the entities in town that can help you with this, and we can connect you with them and so forth. So it's not just about giving the money, it's more about this collective dialogue that we're gonna have with them to get them to that point, right?
Going to have to push back on the no risk comment because there definitely is risk. Even though it's on a reimbursement basis, if a nonprofit organization has an audit and the auditor says this organization is not a going concern, would you give them money for a project? Even though they can spend it and get reimbursed, if they're going to be out of business within the year, why would you make an investment in that organization? That's the purpose of having larger organizations making larger asks have an audit.
I agree with you. I think like that makes a lot of sense. I think the circumstances of this year is unique, and I'm happy to revisit this for the next year if we have, if we're going to do another program. Plus, I think it would be helpful for us, since we do have the funding, to provide the funding for the audit. I think that, if we could do something like that, that's a little bit more comprehensive. And by the way, thank you for getting that list of nonprofits. I mean, that's huge. It's really key. And I mean, that really gives us the landscape of what's going on in Brownsville, and we can approach organizations individually. We can say like, what kinds of projects are you guys thinking about? What do you want to do? And by doing that survey, we can kind of figure out what are the synergies between these organizations, throw some money in there that makes, like a bigger impact. And, if we, by doing that, we say like, it would be helpful if you had an audit, here's some more money. I'm all about that. I think that's fine. I think just the circumstances of this year are different.
Just the last question, and I'll make a motion just to kind of, move the cart forward, right? So again, this is obviously staff's recommendation, Corey, Miriam. I mean, based on the previous conversations that we had, based on the previous challenges that were presented to you all, do you all think that this is, I don't want to say the proper solution to kind of move forward and allow for-profit and nonprofits to continue receiving these fundings mechanisms? I mean, is that?
Well, I think if you, regards to Mark's suggestion,
No, regards to,
our suggestion?
yes,
Okay.
yours.
Well, definitely for the for-profits, yes, it's very important to have those audit reviews, their income tax returns. For nonprofits, we thought this was a happy recommendation between what was discussed in the committee and what was best practices from our other peers in economic development corporations in Texas. But I do understand where Mark is coming from on Emerald about, the projects, it's a reimbursement. So, it's doing better for the community. But yes, I like our recommendation.
Cesar, if I think giving this dialogue, and I understand that I appreciate Tracy's point of view, like you don't want to give $1 million, right? Regardless of if, how good or bad that entity without having some, financial documents that foresee that. So maybe the third, I see the brackets for the third category here with the 100,000, and I'm just speaking out loud here, thinking out loud to move things forward. We're not going to require reviews or audit for, less than 100,000 with, whatever, or we're not even going to go with, if you are more than 100,000, less than 200,000. If you're asking for 200,000 or more, right? 200,050 budget kind of project, then that entity has to have a financial review or an audit. If less than that, then there is no need for financial review or audit for this year until we review these guidelines and come up with a more solid and, elaborate guidelines for next year. Does that make sense? So if you are an entity coming to us, right, and you're asking for any amount less than 250,000, and if your revenue is less than 250, we keep the guide, like there is no reviews, no financial review. If you're coming to us for 250,000 and more, then we need at least to have a financial review or an audit to approve that amount. That's the suggestion.
Which is.
No, I understand the recap. I'm just waiting for a motion. I mean,
So this one, the application review? Okay. So currently, this is how we currently review applications that are submitted. They went through the application review committee, which is formed by 3 appointed board members. Then the review committee meets and scores application utilizing a scoring rubric. If the applications meet all program requirements and score above 70, then they're brought to the board for consideration. And so the board only considers the applications that are recommended by the review committee, and you don't get to assess all submissions. So the recommendation now is to discontinue the application review committee to allow all board members to assess all the applications that are submitted in the proposed projects. Staff will conduct a preliminary review of applications to ensure that program eligibility and requirements are met, and that and staff will score the applications utilizing the rubric. The board will then be given a summary of all the applications, including the score, and you'll have access to all of the documents that are submitted, and you can make recommendations on which applications can be considered for funding. So this would be done in one meeting, and any applications that are considered for funding, then we will take it to the next available meeting where you'll see presentations, and we'll invite the applicants that were selected to answer any questions, and then you can act on the funding amount. So those were basically the recommendations that we have for the existing.
We feel like this will help, because our concern, the reason we wanted the committee to begin with was to not have such a long drawn out because of the 60-day comments. When we take it to the board, take it to the city commission, it could be up to 90 days. And so that was our first intent of the review committee, but then we were looking, it's like, okay, what can we do to have everyone involved, but we don't lengthen the time? We keep it still, 60 to, 70, 90 days. So this is what we came up with, was we take it, we show you all the applications, give you access to the applications on Dropbox. We'll discuss it in one meeting. After that meeting, you tell us what applicants you want to come next month for their presentations. And that way we can then the following day trigger the 60-day comment period. And then the next 30 days is our public hearing. And that's when you get the presentations and you will actually consider and amount the funding. And then the next 30 days is the end of the 60-day comment period, and we take it to city commission.
So, sorry, Tony. So if you have applicants, right? You bring them to us today, and we approve 10 of them, and we ask for them to come back. Will the 30 days start today, or it will start when they come back the next meeting?
No, they start when we actually publish. We have to publish, and publish is posting it on the city hall's website downstairs when we post the 60-day comment period. So after we meet on a Thursday, that Friday, we can post it. And then we can put when we have the public hearing, because we already know when we're going to have our next board meeting. So that's when we can already advertise that. So it starts the next day.
So I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe. Why do we have a public hearing for these, but not necessarily a public hearing for other programs? Like, for example, the big program.
When we took it to city commission, back in the 2019, we had it into the presentation that it was just approval of the funding the following years. We went because then we would that would be a longer process of, the projects being completed if we have to go through the whole 60-day comment period. So we did it as the program, and we did the program as a 60-day comment, but not the actual individual projects.
And can we do that with other programs as well, like this one?
We can ask.
I mean, I'm not saying that for now, but I mean, if, after May 4th, we're still around, I mean, I'd like to do that. I think it would be a lot more convenient.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for.
That's what we try to do on some, though, so we can put it in our budget. We already know what the projects are, so we put it in our budget. So we don't have to, repeat ourselves coming up with the city commission. It's all about final approval of city commission for us.
So I'm sorry, just the question about the review and, I mean, like I don't review the big applicants. And I mean, we did in July when it was very, we had like a special meeting for that. But, why do you recommend us reviewing the applications for this program, but not necessarily for big?
For big, the funds are set. You can only get this pot or this pot, and you can only get this max and this max. For the quality of life, we don't have a max. And there's other things that are eligible. It's not just certain things. So that's why.
I also have a question about it because I was on the review committee for the first round. And like Tracy had mentioned previously, it took, I think she did the best job and it took a lot of time. So I know that it says here staff will conduct a preliminary review and score the applications. And this might be the teacher and me, but if we score something with a rubric, normally there's 2 scores and then you take the average of the 2 scores. Will you guys do anything like that to make sure that it's not just I'm not calling out Miriam's opinion, we disagreed in the committee and it was okay to disagree because then we oh yeah, the rubric isn't maybe we need to change the rubric. It's not clear. So we had some good conversations. So will you have multiple scorers and an average of the scores, or what's the plan there?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I think maybe assessing the existing rubric, and then seeing if that would be kind of most appropriate. I can definitely come up with several, just so you guys can take a look, but, yeah, we can definitely do an average. So it's
normally
not-
what we do, even with schools and state testing, they do 2 scores and it's the average of 2. So maybe that's something you could consider.
Do that.
If we can, is someone outside who, is part of.
So, I hear you, Corey, about that. This is not set in stone. It's not like you have a bracket. It's open-ended kind of application. So, but for the sake of time, I think it would be good to have these. I mean, you guys are going to bid the applications. You're going to bring them to us as those are our recommendations to invite these entities on that meeting. So if we do have questions that we need to clarify, we don't have to wait for another month. We ask the question right there and we make the decision right there. And that way we already reduce a month waiting for these entities to come back and question and so forth. So you do that bidding. Let's say you have 13 applicants. Out of the 13, 10 are good enough for you that we should recommend them to the board. You bring them here to us and you bring the entity, the representative of the entity, if they wish to be here. They might not present, they might answer a question that, me or Sergio or somebody asked, so we can clarify right there, make an informative decision and move forward, rather than wait another meeting for them to come back. That's the first. Second thing, I think just for the sake of starting to actually make an impact for now, they just waive the audit and the financial, reviews for now for 6 months or whatever period for the next cycle until we really have a better, understanding of how we're going to proceed with this program. Okay. And God knows next year we might not even be here. So.
I'd like a clarification on what constitutes a conflict of interest in this area.
You're going to need to be more specific on that question, or it's kind of, I can't just.
What would be considered a conflict of interest for this? Like because all of us are members of the community and involved in many organizations. So that's what she's asking, what would be, do we have a definition before we move forward about what is a conflict of interest?
This is just a general policy or guidelines that you're deciding. I'm not.
No, not about the guidelines, like later, like say we have an organization that comes to bring an application. What would be is that what you're asking, Tracy?
This doesn't apply to any specific, these are the general, you're talking about general program guidelines for a particular program. With anything that the board's considering, if an individual has a conflict, that should have been disclosed in advance. But here you're talking about just a general policy. You all have obligations to this entity, protect it. These, I don't mean to be difficult in answering the question, but it's not as if this should be applying to everyone across the board. The general policy that you're talking about.
Any clarifications, Tracy? No.
So I'll give an example. We approve the policy today, right? Next meeting, we have an entity that a part of the group applying, and any one of us is sitting on the board of that entity. That person at that moment should not and cannot vote on that particular application, correct? But for today, we're just setting up the policy. If we have applicants coming forward and Mark is sitting on one of these boards for one of these applicants, he cannot vote for that application. He will have to abstain, and me too, and everybody else, correct?
Correct. If someone has a conflict with respect to a particular applicant, they should not in any way be involved in the discussion of that particular applicant. Generally speaking, no one should be voting for or against a policy with the aim of benefiting some other organization that they have a connection to. And maybe that's what you were trying to get to. But the decision here has to do with what's best for BCIC. That's what the vote is. And if anyone feels they can't make that decision because of some conflict, you're going to need to speak up about it, because I can't make up the hypothetical otherwise. But this decision should be based solely on what is in the best interest of BCIC.
Are there any additional questions or comments? Thank you guys for all the great questions, because I think it just makes the program stronger. So thank you, board. Is there a motion that would like to be met? I think Seth wants to make a motion. No? Oh, your microphone's on. I just.
Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendations with the exception of removing an audit and financial requirement, and is there, can we, hold on a second, do we want to do an amendment as far as the logistics of the review? You want to do an amendment? Okay.
So for the review process, the staff will bring the approved or recommended applicants with asking the representatives of those applicants to come in the same meeting for clarifications and answering any questions that we might have
During the first meeting.
of the, approving those recommendations. Does that make sense?
Right.
As an addendum. Is that good enough?
I don't know if I'm clear.
Can you repeat that as
Yes.
one
Yeah,
question mark?
I-
So it's clear.
So I have, good.
I move with the motion to approve the staff recommendation with the exception of waiving the requirement for financial audit or financial review for this year. And with the addendum to ask any representatives from the applicants who are recommended by the staff to be present at the first hearing to review their applications.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor in a second. Do we have any clarifying questions?
So just to confirm, you're recommending your motion to waive the financial and auditing requirements and review, okay.
Just to be clear, the motion is on more than just waiving the financial requirements. It's approval of the staff recommendations, except that you're going to waive the requirement on the audits. And you're going to allow representatives of any applicant recommended by the staff for approval to come to that first board meeting to either present or answer questions as needed.
Correct.
Okay. We've got a motion on the floor. We've got a second. Any other additional clarifying questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. That's 4. So it carries, right? Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Right.
Next, we are, the next agenda item is number 12. It's closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.072, property deliberation regarding regarding the sports park.
Motion to move into closed session?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move into executive session. We had a motion by Marad to come out of executive session, to close executive session, and it was seconded by Mark. And the motion carried, so we're back in open session. We're on to agenda item, let me get my page here. 13, which is to convene an open session and take possible action, if any, on the items as discussed in executive session. Are there any motions?
Yes, I have a motion to give the authority to Corey and the legal team of BCIC to negotiate with the city the terms of transfer of the land and how to be completed and how the right of reverter will be executed.
I second that.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to move on to agenda item number 14, which is consideration and action on authorizing a request for proposal, RFP, for conducting a mixed-use development study and initiating a development solicitation selection process for the undeveloped parcels adjacent to to Brownsville Sports Park.
Sorry about that. Okay. So yes, we're talking about the RFP to move forward on the mixed-use development study and the developer solicitation and selection process for our undeveloped parcels at the Brownsville Sports Park. So the purpose of this RFP process is to go out for proposals so our consulting firms or individuals who have the necessary qualifications can conduct a comprehensive study and determine the best use of the undeveloped parcels or surrounding the sports park. So the RFP would include two parts. The first part is the highest and best use to market demand financial feasibility study. This would take 3 to 5 months after the selection of the consultant we would move forward on. That impact study would include like retail, restaurant, office, multifamily, entertainment attractions, and hotel market analysis. So it really is a comprehensive study. The second part is the same consulting firm would manage the RFQ and then shorten the list. Then that RFP would be out for document packages, and that includes they would manage the creation, the marketing, the management of all the inquiries, the site tours, the reviews of the submissions, come up with the term sheets and the negotiations. This actually does take about 8 to 10 months from start to finish, because that negotiations might be back and forth. But that is also with the involvement of the board and the staff. Let's see, we're opposed to this approval of the land development. It had been suggested by the city that we would do the posting of the RFP after the city's commission approval of the land development agreement. So what I want to ask the board is for authorization for the president to solicit the RFP for the market and feasibility study and the developer solicitation for the undeveloped parcels, as well as appoint 2 board members to be on the valuation committee. Along with our 2 board members, it would also be 2 appointments by the city. So whoever they appoint on their behalf, as well as myself. Those would be the 5 on the evaluation committee. I do also want to point out that the RFP would include that whoever we move forward on would work with the city's consultants that are doing the master plan for the sports park, and as well as all the parks, to make sure that both their ideas and what they're planning for the sports park mesh together. They're cohesive.
Board have any questions?
I mean, I think it's sorely needed, a plan for this area. Fortunately, I think the timing, if, we could wait a couple more months, I think, once we get clarity on what's going on with the election, it'll be good, not only for us and for whatever, if, there is an MDD, Because the idea is if the two measures go through and BCIC goes away and the MDD comes about, we don't even know who's going to run it. We don't know who's going to be on the board. We don't know if they may take a different direction. And what I am concerned about is ownership of plans. So, you know, when we went with the strategic plan, that was before we knew about this vote. And I felt like we should just, you know, continue and see it through. With this one, it's like now we're about to embark on a new plan when we might not be around. So then who owns the plan? I mean, I understand that BCIC and its, you know, would finish its commitment, but I'm concerned that they're just, when we'd be spending all this money and then it just gets shelved because nobody was really owning it.
But if we stay, then we're gonna have
Right. So then
ready,
like,
you know, ready to move.
so
with-
then
with
in
the
late
plan.
May, I get you. So then in late May, we can say, let's do this.
I think having a plan is helpful because, I mean, you're right, we won't know where we'll be and that is a concern for me as well. But, you know, once that time arrives and at least we have the start of a plan, that might be helpful to leverage in terms of what the next direction for us might be.
Just to be clear, the only thing that's on the agenda is going forward with the request for the proposal. It's not in any way going forward with the actual payment or hiring the person who will be doing this. That's not on the agenda for tonight.
And so then, I mean, to that point, you know, I wonder about the bids that we would get, you know, the quality of bids. Would we, you know, considering there's this uncertainty, would we be able to get enough and good quality?
At that point, you will decide. If we don't have good enough applicants, we don't consider them.
Well, yeah.
That's a different, I mean, that's a different discussion at that point. I'll say just move forward with this and we'll see, you know, what will come out.
See
of
what
it,
the response is.
What the response will be, and then we'll decide based on that.
I agree with Murad. I do take issue though with having this contingent upon the completion of the transfer of the property. I really don't think that's necessary. This plan is required whether or not that takes 6 months or it
Yeah.
takes 6 years. I don't think we need to make it contingent on that.
I agree.
Other questions or discussion? We have a motion on the floor.
I move with a motion to approve the BCIC Board of Director authorize Corey to solicit request for proposals for market and feasibility studies and developers for the undeveloped parcel of the sport park.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Wait, second motion. I need to appoint 2 board members on the evaluation committee. Yeah, 2 who would want to be a part of the evaluation committee.
And who was
Sergio?
with you? Was it-
Count me in.
So I would just put it as a motion.
Have a motion to appoint.
So okay, I can't.
Tracy, were you making a motion to appoint?
Since the agenda item doesn't reference that, is that okay for us to do?
It's still part of the RFP
recommendation.
select. Deborah, I will defer it to Deborah. Does it have to be a separate item?
The only thing on the agenda is consideration
Okay.
and action on authorizing a request for the proposal. So I would say you hold that for a different item, which is a little bit broader or specifically allows
Okay.
it. And being that you don't, all you're doing now is going out for the request for proposals. So it's not as if the board would have anything to be working on at this point.
Okay.
Anyway, so you probably don't lose anything by not going forward with that today.
Okay,
So-
thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 15 then, which is announcements relating to items of public interest regarding local or regional civic charitable events, staff recognition, upcoming meetings, informational update on projects, awards, acknowledgements, birthdays, and requests for items to be placed on upcoming agendas or condolences.
So Cesar, we were gonna throw a big party to recognize his birthday last week. It was on the 14th. So he missed the party. That was really announcements on our behalf. Does anybody else, anything for future agendas?
Just to reiterate the request to update the electronic file for the packet with whatever was.
Was added.
Any other announcements? Okay, let's move on to item number 16, which is a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Got a motion from Marad, a second from Mark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.